In Hollywood, there's an unwritten law of survival that every star must engrave in their mind. You could get caught in a sex scandal. You can fall into addiction, but you absolutely must not anger Johnny Carson. With the Tonight Show empire, Johnny Carson wasn't just a witty host. He was the godfather of American television. A nod from him could turn a nobody into a superstar overnight. But conversely, a shake of his head was powerful enough to send an illustrious career into the abyss. Who were they? The one who owed Johnny Carson everything but dared to betray him after 20 years of loyalty. The gangster singer who dared to storm into the dressing room to threaten violence. The frauds, the arrogant bullies, and even living legends with rotten characters. Today, let's blow the dust off this top-secret file to name and shame the 9 people who committed the ultimate tabas and received the most brutal sentence from Johnny Carson. Permanent eraser. Joan Rivers, the eyes who betrayed. During his 30-year reign over the Tonight Show empire, Johnny Carson was likened to an uncrowned king of American television. Thousands of stars passed through his living room, but only one woman was publicly considered family by him, the most worthy successor. That was Joan Rivers. Their friendship was as beautiful as a Hollywood fairy tale. In 1965, Joan was still an unknown comedian struggling to find her footing. But right after her first performance on the show, Johnny Carson wiped tears of laughter from his eyes and declared on air, "You're going to be a star. You are terrific." That sentence changed her destiny. Johnny not only mentored her, but also gave her the ultimate privilege, becoming the permanent guest host. Whenever the king went on vacation, Joan was the only one allowed to sit in that power chair. All of America believed she was his spiritual child. But the deeper the trust, the sharper the pain. In 1986, fearing NBC would replace her with younger faces, Joan Rivers made a fatal mistake. She secretly signed a contract with rival network Fox to do her own show, competing directly with Johnny. What made Johnny Carson, an old-school gentleman who always valued loyalty, feel disgusted wasn't that she wanted to fly high, but the deception she had negotiated behind his back. Johnny Carson, who had lifted her from zero, ironically, was the last to know, and he found out through the press, not from his little sister's mouth. He felt stabbed in the back by the person he loved most. The moment deciding the fate of this 20-year relationship happened through a brutally short phone call. When the news broke, Joan Rivers called Johnny's private number to explain. She hoped 2 decades of affection would help him understand. She trembled as she spoke. Johnny once wasn't an angry shout, only a calm voice, icy and strange like a total stranger. "I heard you got your own show. Congratulations." And then a dry click. Johnny Carson had hung up. He didn't give her a chance to say a second sentence. No argument, no holding back. To Johnny. The moment Joan decided to hide from him to sign with a rival, she had erased her name from his life with her own hand. From the moment the phone was put down, Johnny Carson executed a cruel death sentence, eternal silence. He ordered Joan Rivers banned from The Tonight Show for life. Her name was never mentioned. Her old clips were sealed. Even when Joan's own show failed miserably, even when her husband committed suicide due to debt pressure, Johnny maintained that coldness for 19 years until he died. Joan Rivers sits in the first chapter of this blacklist as the most painful lesson. With Johnny Carson, you can make mistakes, but once you betray trust, you will cease to exist forever. Wayne Newton, the flamboyant gangster. Wayne Newton, also known as Mr. Las Vegas, was a symbol of flamboyance. With a soaring voice, groomed hair, and trademark mustache, he was the king of nightclub stages. But that somewhat polished, dandified appearance made him tasty bait for Johnny Carson's sharp jokes. In the early 80s, Johnny Carson began a habit of mocking Wayne Newton in opening monologues. Johnny frequently hinted at Wayne's sexuality, calling him a girl, or making sarcastic comments about the singer's masculinity. The audience roared with laughter every night. But in Las Vegas, one man's blood was boiling. Wayne Newton tried to endure. He contacted producers to complain gently, but the jokes continued, even becoming more vicious. Johnny Carson believed he was king, and a king has the right to tease anyone. But Johnny picked the wrong opponent. Behind the glittering sequin jacket, Wayne Newton was a man of extremely high self-esteem and the defiant character of a veteran in the nightlife industry. One afternoon, after hearing another insulting joke on TV, Wayne Newton decided enough is enough. He didn't call a lawyer. He didn't call a manager. Wayne Newton drove alone straight to the NBC studio in Burbank. With his fame, he easily passed security checkpoints to go straight into the backstage area. Considered Johnny Carson's inviolable sanctuary, Johnny was sitting in his dressing room preparing the script for tonight's show. The door burst open. Wayne Newton walked in without a social smile. The air in the room froze. Before Johnny could utter a greeting, Wayne Newton lunged. According to Wayne's own recounting, later he grabbed Johnny Carson's lapels, pinning the king to the chair. The eyes of Mr. Las Vegas no longer held their usual romantic look, but were full of murderous intent. He gritted out each word in Johnny's face. "Listen here, Johnny. I don't care who you are. If you tell one more joke about me, I won't sue you. I will find you, and I will beat the hell out of you right in front of everyone." Johnny Carson was stunned. Throughout his career, he had faced all kinds of people, but never had he been threatened with violence face-to-face like this, right in his own lair. Johnny looked into Wayne's eyes and realized, this guy isn't joking. Johnny, a man who hated physical conflict and was smart enough to know when to stop, nodded. Wayne Newton let go, straightened his jacket, and walked out of the room as coldly as he entered. The result? Wayne Newton won that duel. From that night on, Johnny Carson absolutely never mentioned Wayne Newton's name or made him a joke again. Silence reigned. But Johnny Carson also had his own way of retaliation, the retaliation of a man holding media power. He didn't fight Wayne back. He erased Wayne. Wayne Newton was blacklisted. The doors of the Tonight Show slammed shut forever in his face. For an artist, being banned from appearing on America's most popular show was a huge loss in fame and revenue. Chevy Chase, the arrogant bad boy. If the Joan Rivers case was a tragedy, and the Wayne Newton case was an action movie, the Chevy Chase case was a profound moral lesson on attitude. This is the clearest proof that in Johnny Carson's kingdom, outstanding talent cannot save you if your character is zero. In the mid-70s, Chevy Chase was the hottest name in America. As the brightest star of the hit comedy show Saturday Night Live, with handsome looks and a reckless demeanor, Chevy was likened to a new rebellious breeze. Initially, Johnny Carson was also attracted. He saw in this young man the shadow of a potential successor generation. But that brief honeymoon ended quickly. Johnny Carson, with the keen eyes of a man who had been in the business for 30 years, soon realized behind Chevy Chase's dashing exterior was a personality he hated to the core. The arrogance of a bully. Unlike other comedians who poke fun to bring joy, Chevy Chase often used humor to degrade others. He came to the NBC studio with the attitude of a little prince. He despised the backstage staff, yelled at makeup artists, and mocked assistants. Johnny Carson considered the production crew family. He treated the cable puller with as much respect as a senator. Therefore, upon hearing complaints about Chevy's imperious attitude backstage, Johnny began crossing out his name in his head. But Chevy Chase's scumbaggery was also evident right on air. When sitting opposite Johnny, Chevy frequently had a condescending one-up attitude. He put his legs up, leaned back in the chair with a smug face, gave curt answers, or deliberately broke Johnny's rhythm to prove he was smarter than the host. While legends like Bob Hope or Frank Sinatra always maintained humility before Johnny, Chevy Chase behaved as if his presence was a favor granted to the show. The peak causing Johnny to freeze the relationship was the cruelty in Chevy's words. He frequently mocked the appearance, weight, or failures of other colleagues. Johnny Carson was a master of laughter, but he never accepted humor that trampled on others' pain. Johnny Carson didn't need a noisy argument like with Wayne Newton. He chose a much more terrifying punishment, oblivion. No official ban document was issued. Johnny simply whispered to producer Fred de Cordova, "I don't want to see this guy anymore." And so the doors of the Tonight Show quietly closed. While contemporaries like Steve Martin or Robin Williams were continuously invited back, becoming regulars and seeing their careers soar thanks to Johnny's launchpad, Chevy Chase gradually disappeared. His phone stopped ringing. He was pushed to the margins of Hollywood's most prestigious playground. This silent punishment by Johnny Carson was a fatal blow. It sent an implicit message to the entire entertainment industry. This guy has a character problem. Chevy Chase's film career was still successful for a time after, but the bad reputation regarding his attitude spread far and wide. You can be the funniest person in the room, but if you are a jerk, eventually you will be the only one left in that room. Jim Garrison, the conspiracy theory peddler. In the late 60s, America was still bleeding after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Amidst public confusion, Jim Garrison, New Orleans district attorney, appeared as a savior. He grandly declared he held shocking evidence to expose the true conspiracy behind JFK's death. He promised to bring the hidden perpetrators to light. Johnny Carson, though an entertainment host, possessed a sharp intellect and always cared about current affairs. Out of curiosity and also wanting to bring the truth to the audience, Johnny broke the rule. He invited Jim Garrison to The Tonight Show on the night of January 31st, 1968, giving this prosecutor an unprecedentedly long duration to present evidence. But that night, Johnny Carson realized he had made a huge mistake. Jim Garrison walked onto the stage looking dignified and confident. But when Johnny started asking core questions, "What is your specific evidence? On what basis do you accuse this person?" Garrison began to show his true colors. Instead of presenting valid legal evidence, Garrison started pulling out blurry photos, vague hypotheses, and baseless accusations aimed at government officials. He rambled on, dodging Johnny's direct questions with roundabout answers. Johnny Carson sat there, eyes narrowing with suspicion. He realized the man opposite him didn't want to find justice for JFK. Garrison was using The Tonight Show, America's